Hello, everyone. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Today, we're diving into a story filled with secrets, suspicion, and emotions that are slowly tearing people apart. What happens when the woman Quynh trusts the most may be hiding the truth behind the attack on his mother, while another man quietly steps closer to Tham during the darkest moment of her life. Stay with us as we uncover the tension, the hidden fears, and the dangerous truths waiting beneath the surface. And if you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any upcoming videos. The road leading back from the countryside market felt unusually quiet that evening. The sun had almost disappeared behind the thick bamboo forest, leaving behind only faint strips of orange light stretching across the empty dirt path. Tham walked slowly with the bamboo basket hanging weakly from her arm, her body still exhausted after spending the entire afternoon selling fruit beneath the burning heat. Every breath felt heavier than normal. Sweat still clung to the back of her neck, and her legs ached with every step forward. But none of that disturbed her as much as the strange feeling growing inside her chest. For several minutes now, she had felt like someone was following her. At first, she tried to ignore it. She convinced herself it was only exhaustion making her paranoid. The past few days had already been overwhelming enough. Ever since Quynh's mother was attacked, fear and tension had quietly settled over everyone's lives like an invisible storm waiting to explode. Tham lowered her head and continued walking, but the uncomfortable sensation refused to disappear. It felt as though a pair of unseen eyes were watching her from somewhere behind the bamboo fences lining the road. Finally, she stopped walking and slowly turned around. The road behind her was completely empty. Only the sound of wind moving through the bamboo leaves filled the silence. No footsteps, no voices, nothing. After a few seconds, she let out a nervous breath and tried calming herself down before continuing toward home. But hidden behind one of the abandoned market stalls, farther away, a man remained standing silently in the shadows, watching her disappear down the narrow road. It was the same man who had sat beside her fruit stall earlier that afternoon. The same man who had offered her water while she struggled beneath the heat, and the same man whose concern had already started crossing a line that even he no longer fully understood. His eyes followed her quietly until she vanished behind the bamboo trees. There was no anger in his expression. No hatred, only a growing obsession he kept trying to justify to himself. In his mind, Tham deserved someone stronger, someone capable of protecting her from the hardship swallowing her life piece by piece. And slowly, dangerously, he had begun convincing himself that person should be him. Not far away, inside the small wooden house, hidden deep within the bamboo forest, Quynh sat alone beside the old table under the dim yellow light hanging from the ceiling. Construction documents and unfinished reports were spread across the table in front of him. But his eyes had barely moved across the pages for the past several minutes. Earlier that day, his supervisor had officially handed him responsibility for a major construction project. It should have been good news. A better position meant better income, more stability, and maybe even the future he and Tam had always dreamed about together. But instead of relief, Quynh only felt pressure tightening around him from every direction. The construction site was already facing serious material shortages. Workers had started arguing over delayed schedules. Suppliers were demanding immediate payments. On top of everything else, his supervisor continued pressuring him to speed up progress before the company lost credibility with their partners. Every problem seemed to arrive at the same time, leaving Quynh with barely enough space to breathe. He leaned back against the chair and rubbed his tired eyes, but no matter how hard he tried focusing on work, his thoughts always drifted back toward the same terrifying question. What if Miss Huang was truly responsible for attacking his mother? That thought had slowly begun poisoning every quiet moment in his mind. He still remembered the conversation between him and Tam the night before. The fear in her voice, the way she tried defending her mother while also being unable to fully trust her. Quynh understood exactly how painful the situation was for her. That was what made everything even more unbearable, because if he continued searching for the truth, there was a chance he would destroy the relationship between Tam and her own family forever. But if he ignored his suspicions and remained silent, then the person suffering unfairly would be his mother. The pressure of standing between love and truth was slowly tearing him apart from the inside. The sound of the wooden door opening suddenly pulled him from his thoughts. Tam stepped quietly inside, carrying the empty basket in her hands. Her face looked pale beneath the weak light inside the house. Quynh immediately stood up and walked toward her. "You came home late," he said softly. Tam forced a tired smile and placed the basket near the wall. "The market closed later than usual today." Her voice sounded calm, but Quynh quickly noticed the uneasiness hidden behind her expression. She avoided eye contact for a moment before quietly sitting down beside the table. "Are you okay?" he asked. Tam hesitated briefly before nodding. "I'm just tired." She didn't tell him about the strange feeling she had on the road home. She didn't mention the feeling of being watched from somewhere inside the darkness. Part of her still believed she was imagining things, and the last thing she wanted was adding even more pressure onto Quynh's already exhausted mind. Quynh looked at her silently for several seconds before gently placing his hand over hers. Neither of them spoke after that. The silence inside the small house felt heavier than ever, as though both of them could already sense something dangerous slowly approaching their lives. That same night, in another house across the village, Ms. Huang stood alone inside her dark kitchen, while the sound of insects echoed endlessly outside the open windows. The entire house was silent, except for the faint sound of wind moving through the trees. She hadn't slept properly in days. Every time she closed her eyes, memories of the attack returned immediately. The shouting, the fear, the moment Quynh's mother collapsed onto the ground. Ms. Huang gripped the edge of the kitchen counter tightly as her breathing slowly became uneven. "No one saw me," she whispered to herself. "No one knows anything." But even as she repeated those words, the fear inside her continued growing stronger. Earlier that afternoon, During her visit to Quinn's mother, she had noticed something unsettling. The older woman's eyes had changed. There was caution in them now, suspicion, as though she had started remembering pieces of what happened that night. Ms. Huang quickly walked toward the sink and splashed water onto her face, trying desperately to calm herself down. But the harder she tried escaping her thoughts, the more vivid the memories became. Then suddenly, something flashed through her mind. Her bracelet, the bracelet she had been wearing on the night of the attack. Her eyes widened instantly. Without hesitation, she rushed toward her bedroom and pulled open the wooden drawer beside the bed. Her hands trembled violently as she searched through old clothes and scattered belongings. The bracelet was gone. For several long seconds, Ms. Huang stood frozen in complete silence, while panic slowly spread across her face. And at that exact same moment, inside another house not far away, Quinn's mother suddenly opened her eyes while lying awake in bed. A faint smell drifting through the night air had triggered something deep inside her memory. Herbal oil, a familiar scent she had smelled before. Her breathing slowly became shallow as fragmented memories from the night of the attack began returning piece by piece. The darkness, the struggle, the sound of bracelets clashing together near her ear. Quinn's mother slowly sat upright on the bed, fear filling her eyes for the first time since the attack, because deep down she was no longer uncertain anymore. The next morning arrived beneath a heavy grey sky that made the entire village feel colder than usual. Thick clouds hung low above the bamboo forest, while the distant sound of thunder echoed faintly across the countryside. Inside the small wooden house, Quynh had already been awake for hours. He stood quietly near the doorway, buttoning his dusty work shirt, while staring absent-mindedly toward the road outside. He barely slept the night before. Ever since his mother's strange reaction and the fear in her eyes, something inside him had changed. The suspicion surrounding Ms. Huang no longer felt like a distant possibility. It was beginning to feel dangerously real. Behind him, Tham slowly prepared breakfast in silence. The tension between them was subtle, but impossible to ignore. Neither of them argued, neither of them spoke harshly, yet both could feel the invisible distance quietly growing between them. Quinn's mind was consumed by work pressure and unanswered questions, while Tham kept thinking about the strange feeling of being followed the evening before. Several times, she almost told him the truth, but every time she looked at his exhausted face, the words disappeared before leaving her mouth. Quynh finally grabbed his helmet and turned toward her. "Don't stay too late at the market today," he said softly. Tham nodded with a faint smile. "I know." For a brief moment, they looked at each other in silence. The kind of silence shared by two people trying desperately to protect each other while quietly drowning in problems neither of them fully understood anymore. Hours later, the construction site exploded into chaos beneath the threatening afternoon sky. Workers argued loudly near piles of unfinished materials while trucks moved in and out through the muddy entrance. One supplier refused to unload steel because previous payments hadn't been completed. Another group of workers complained about delayed wages. Quynh moved from one problem to another without stopping, trying desperately to keep everything under control. Sweat soaked through his shirt, despite the cool wind before the coming rainstorm. His supervisor continued calling him repeatedly, demanding updates and warning him that any major delay would damage the company's reputation with investors. The pressure was becoming unbearable. But even in the middle of all the noise and confusion, Quynh's thoughts continued drifting back toward his mother's words from the previous night. The smell of herbal oil, the sound of bracelets, familiar details slowly connecting together inside his mind. During lunch break, Quynh sat alone near the unfinished concrete stairs, staring at his phone without moving. That was when another memory suddenly returned to him. Earlier that week, while visiting his mother, Miss Huang had been wearing long sleeves despite the heat. At the time, it seemed meaningless. But now, combined with everything else, even small details were beginning to feel suspicious. Quynh lowered his head and exhaled slowly. The deeper he looked into the truth, the more terrified he became of what he might eventually discover. Meanwhile, dark rain clouds finally rolled across the village market, where Tham sat quietly beneath her small tarp-covered stall, arranging fruit for customers. The air had become thick and humid before the storm. Business was slow, and only a few people remained, walking through the market pathways. Tham rubbed her aching shoulders and looked up toward the darkening sky. She knew heavy rain was coming soon. Then suddenly, a familiar voice interrupted her thoughts. "Looks like you're going to get stuck here today." She looked up immediately and saw the same man standing nearby, holding 2 bags of medicine beneath his arm. He smiled gently before stepping closer to the stall. "You still look tired," he said quietly. "You shouldn't be sitting out here all day after being sick." Tham gave a polite smile and lowered her eyes back toward the fruit. "I'm okay now." But the man didn't leave. Instead, he quietly helped her pull part the tarp lower before the rain started. His movements were calm and natural, as though he had already become familiar with being around her. Moments later, rain began crashing heavily against the market roof. The narrow pathways emptied almost instantly as people rushed away from the storm. Thunder echoed loudly overhead, while cold wind swept through the open market entrance. Tham looked worriedly toward the road home. The rain was too heavy to walk through safely. Without saying anything, the man removed his jacket and held it toward her. "You'll get sick again if you walk home like this." Tham immediately shook her head. "No, it's okay. I can wait until the rain slows down." But before either of them could continue speaking, another figure suddenly appeared near the entrance of the market. Quynh. His clothes were already soaked from the rain after leaving the construction site early to check on her. The moment he stepped inside, his eyes immediately landed on the scene before him. Tham sitting beneath the tarp, the man standing beside her, holding out his jacket. For several long seconds, nobody spoke. The atmosphere instantly became tense beneath the sound of heavy rain. Tham quickly stood up. "Quynh," she started softly, but Quynh simply looked at the man in silence. His expression didn't show anger. That was what made it more unsettling. There was only exhaustion in his eyes. Exhaustion and something else quietly beginning to grow beneath the surface. Doubt. The man slowly lowered his hand and gave a calm nod. I was just helping her because of the rain. Quynh nodded once without responding. Then he walked toward Tham and quietly handed her his helmet. Let's go home. His voice sounded calm, but distant. Tham immediately sensed the change in him. On the ride home through the storm, neither of them spoke a single word. Rain continued crashing against the road, while cold wind cut through the silence between them. Behind Quynh's quiet expression, thoughts continued colliding violently inside his mind. Work pressure, his mother's suspicions, Ms. Huang, and now this unfamiliar man appearing around Tham again and again. By the time they arrived home, darkness had already covered the village completely, but elsewhere, inside her own house, Ms. Huang sat frozen beside the bed, staring at the bracelet lying in front of her. She had finally found it hidden beneath old clothes inside another drawer. Relief should have calmed her down. Instead, fear only became stronger, because now she realized something even worse. If Quynh's mother truly remembered the bracelet, then it was only a matter of time before everything collapsed. At that same moment, Quynh's phone suddenly vibrated inside his pocket. He slowly pulled it out and stared at the unknown number flashing across the screen. Then another message appeared beneath it. Some truths are already closer than you think. Quynh's face slowly darkened as he read the message again. And somewhere outside, in the endless darkness beyond the bamboo forest, someone was still quietly watching all of them. After Quynh's mother is violently attacked, fear and suspicion begin spreading through the quiet village. Quynh struggles to balance the pressure of a major construction project while secretly investigating the possibility that Ms. Huang may be hiding a terrifying truth. At the same time, Tham tries to support Quynh by returning to the market to sell fruit, unaware that another man has started developing dangerous feelings for her. As tension quietly grows between love, loyalty, and betrayal, strange memories begin returning to Quynh's mother, slowly pointing toward the real attacker. Meanwhile, Ms. Huang becomes consumed by fear as she realizes the truth may soon be exposed. With emotional distance growing between Quynh and Tham, and a mysterious message warning that the truth is closer than you think, their fragile lives begin moving toward a storm none of them are prepared for.